We have one man who is an expert when it comes to snakes and snake handling, and it is the one and only Talkin Jake, Jake Storiale from Jomboy. Jake, what is up, my man?
What's going on, boys? How about it? An old friend of mine is a new friend of mine, Jordan Montgomery. And I'm happy to be here. I know that's like the corny do anything line, but I saw your DM come through and I was like, tomorrow's brutal. Like, I can't do tomorrow. I opened up the schedule, one gap on it, 4 to 4:30. Let's talk snakes. And
Let's
then we got
go.
big news.
I know, that's huge. It's huge news. It's absolutely huge news. And of course, we did want to tell you, good job on defending the pool. I know things didn't go our way during the World Series, but we do appreciate you being on guard and preventing any shenanigans from happening in that area.
There was a guy begging me. It went from, hey, if we hit a grand slam, you'll jump in the pool, right? To, if we hit a homer, you'll jump in the pool, right? To at one point he was negotiating, if we get a runner on base, you'll get in the pool. And I was like, hey man, like I would love to get in that pool, but we need some runs, and that's in our rear view now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what we have is all of these offseason moves the Diamondbacks have made. And of course, the big news is Jordan Montgomery. We know you are very familiar with him. So I guess we wanted to get your thoughts on, the Diamondbacks making this kind of 11th hour decision to bring on somebody of Monty's caliber.
Well, first, shout out to the Snakes front office, man. Our talking baseball high level Snakes kind of going away line was like, all right, well, I hope they add something, but they just had some success. They're gonna let the kids play. And then to add, two of the best lefty starters in Erod and Monty. The additions to the lineup, like everyone everyone was saying bye to Lourdes Gurriel. He
Yeah.
resigns.
Yeah.
They trade for
Yeah.
Eugenio. It's what they've done this offseason is what every team hopes for, right? Like a window has opened up. Let's go for it. In the Monty news, everyone was looking for teams for him and Snell. Nothing became apparent. And you wonder, I don't know. You wonder if did the Erod injury matter at all? Is it the fact that all of
Yeah.
Boras's clients ended up on the West Coast that the Snakes are like, well, if we're doing this, let's do it. But man, Monty's fun. He's kind of a low. I don't want to say low energy guy. That sounds rude. But he's pretty straight faced. But if he
Yeah.
gets the big out, he's going to show you some emotion. He'll get jacked up. And I guess the only thing I'd warn Snakes fans is when he was with the Yanks. Sometimes he'd go through stretches where like the first inning was tough because he was finding out what his second best pitch was going to be that day, whether it's kind of his curveball or the changeup. So sometimes in the first inning he's searching a little bit, but when he gets in a rhythm, man, he's one of those guys you look up and it's like, wow, Monty's retired 12 straight, and you're like, wow, damn, let's go.
Jake, I'm still trying to just figure out how Jordan Montgomery signed a deal that only guarantees him $25 million. Like, as of a few months ago, I think we were all expecting it to be at least 4 times that, maybe up to 6 times that. Like, that was sort of the expectation. Obviously, he's not the only one in this kind of position. Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger, really all of the Scott Boras clients seem to have gotten a lot less than we expected. What do you make of the market that has kind of taken shape for him, or I guess didn't really take shape for him, and just kind of the Boras situation as a whole, where he just wasn't able to get nearly as much money for his clients as a lot of people expected?
Jesse wants to say it that way, but he really means is Boras washed? Is Boras washed?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
right. Done or finished. No, I feel like I've had the conspiracy hat on a little too much recently between Shohei and now the Boras stuff.
Right.
That this one hurt the most, and I'll circle to that a little bit. Boras has a huge crop of free agents next year, guys that like Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, guys that this won't happen to. So was there some owners? We'll never say collusion. I don't know. I don't know. I know for Snell, for Cody, for Matt Chapman, there were question marks coming into their free agency. Chapman, after his first month, he had a rough go last year, and his numbers had been coming down. Snell, that's the one I defend the most because like if we're just knocking people for winning Cy Youngs because they walk guys, like I'm I'm making a walk and single combined stat because it's the same thing. Like I know we have whip but like a walk is a single, and that's how I'm operating right now. Because the year
Sure.
before that, Dylan Cease finished second in the Cy Young when he led the AL in walks. So like, there's a world where that can be not as damaging as it used to be previously. That's a whole nother speech.
Sure.
And then for me, Cody, he obviously had the injuries and the couple years where he wasn't good. Monty has been Monty. He eats innings. He gives you, close to a quality start every fifth day. Should he be penalized that he's actually kind of peaking? Like in those playoffs when he was mowing down Yordan Alvarez and he tapped into a little something more with St. Louis and Texas.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy that should have been the easiest. Hey, 4 or 5 years, somewhere between 20 and 30 million. Let's put him in our rotation.
Right.
And for him, that's the one that hurt the most because like I half get the other guys, and if they have a monster year, which they're all capable of, they'll still get paid. Outside of Boras or whatever, if Snell shoves this year, he just won the Cy Young and shoved again, and his career, like everything's good. Cody does it back-to-back years. So the Monty one hurt the most because he doesn't necessarily have the highest level stuff, but he's going to give you a good year. So his free agency is going to look very similar next year. I don't know, but I'm happy for the Snakes.
Yeah, we are too. Like we're anything that happened that allowed this to be reality is fine with us, right? But
Derek doesn't care how it happened.
I don't give a shit.
I'm
fine with it. Let's just not worry about how it happened. What I will say, like I do feel like time impacted this a lot. Like you said, I mean, there is something to be said about the owners basically maybe deciding or maybe not, maybe not getting together and deciding, but just overall having the feeling like we're not going to let Scott Boras do this to us again. We're not going to make Scott Boras, make us sign these clients to 14-year deals for billions of dollars and all of this stuff that's going on. So it felt like really it came down to if Jordan Montgomery doesn't play this year, or if he doesn't sign soon with a team, it could jeopardize him playing this year. And then what happens to him? I'm not saying a team isn't going to get desperate due to injury and come to them, but it also feels like, they kind of played their hand and they made it out like, some of his top clients could wait. And then time ran out on them and they had to make a choice. $25 million is still a lot of money. It's more money than at least us on this side of the table is going to see. We don't know about you, Jake, but of course, we know that that's one of those situations where it's like, all right, that's not the worst deal. It's not the long-term deal you get at the age of 31. I think he's 31 right now.
31, yeah.
Yeah, like that's an age where, like you said, he should be getting that 4, 5, 6-year deal at this point. It's kind of crazy that he's not, but still, at the very least, he can go out and play for a contender and prove himself, somehow need to prove himself, I guess, once again, that he's worthy of a longer deal.
Oh, hey, and not to crossfire at the owners too much, but I just kind of had a moment of realization that, all of us today are talking about Boras. Like, in a way, this is a huge win for the owners who held out on signing Snell and signing Monty, signing Matt Chapman. So look at that little spin zone. And I mean, I'm still very much on that side of the table than closer to the owners. I'm debating if I'm getting Taco Bell for dinner tonight. So, we're getting a couple YouTube views, but the wallet's not fat yet.
Jake, a big question that we've been asked in the last 24 hours, I guess less than 24 hours since this happened, is whether the Diamondbacks have the best starting rotation in all of baseball. I don't know if I'm quite there. I don't think I'm there. I look at the Dodgers and what they have. I know Yamamoto was not at all good in Korea, but I still think there's a lot of reason to believe he'll turn things around. The depth that they have is impressive. I look at what the Braves have, with Strider and Fried at the top, Charlie Morton, Chris Sale. That's a pretty solid top four that they've got. The Mariners, of course, even though Brian Woo's going to miss time, their top four is still really, really good without him. Where do you see the D-backs stacking up here? Do they have the best rotation in baseball, or how close do you think they are?
I wouldn't say. I don't think they'll be the top rotation in baseball, and maybe even not top 3. But what I'll say with that is that they can't be worse than, like, again, I'm guessing a little bit, but like 8th. Like
Sure.
the talent they do have is pretty safe talent. Like Merrill Kelly, Jordan Montgomery, and I know Erod's banged up right now, but when those guys are pitching, they're pretty safe. Like a lot of those guys don't have bad numbers on their baseball reference page. And then once you move all the young guys down, Fott, Henry, Nelson, like, the opportunity for those guys to be a 5 is insane. So, and obviously Zach Gallen is a guy at the top. You One of the other rotations in baseball probably fully clicks, whether that's Dodgers. There's a couple sneaky ones, like Toronto was under the radar really good last year, but I think when you look at kind of how we picture, and again, I wonder where, when I was a spoiled Yankee fan growing up, and like what a team should feel like. When you look at your rotation, every team wants a 1. You love to have the 2 guy, and then you kind of innings eaters, or this guy might break out this year, a guy like Fott, and like that's the Snakes have that, and now seeing all the young guys slide down the ladder, it makes them look that much better. It's probably a top 5 rotation if you're being safe.
Do you think it's safe to say that there's like 10, 15 other teams in baseball that should have given Montgomery the deal that the Diamondbacks just did?
Yes. And well, the other thing that I'm deciding how I want to attack it is through this offseason when contracts were rolling out, you're kind of like, ooh, I like that contract. That's a good fit. And, that was with Snell and Monty and a couple other things looming, that we kind of need to revisit how the pitching market went down. Like, even, I say this in an endearing way, Erod 4 for 80, like, would Snell, or excuse me, would Monty have taken that? And then what does each of their free agencies like? Sonny Gray got 3 for 75, which is a 1/3 of Jordan Montgomery, which that doesn't feel right for the younger lefty pitcher who's peaking. And Sonny Gray did finish second in the Cy Young last year. Even Marcus Stroman signed for 2 for like 38 and a half or something like that. That we were kind of like, whoa, that's incredible value. And it still might be. But now seeing some of the other contracts, it's like, okay, that's a little more on par to what this free agency was. That if a couple teams had the chance to do it over, would you just pay an extra buck for Snell? Would you pay an extra buck for Monty? I don't know. I think there's a couple teams with slight buyer remorse. Again, this is just shrapnel for no reason. The Cardinals got their work done early. The Cardinals signed Gibson and Lance Lynn, who, they're looking for a lot of innings, and those guys can give them to you for 13 mil and 11 mil. And you just wonder if you're spending that kind of money and those guys could have been XYZ, I don't know, different free agency.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of have that a little bit with JD Martinez. At least I do, because I'm a huge lover of JD Martinez. And
Derek still hasn't gotten over that the Diamondbacks did not sign
this Jordan Montgomery thing does not make me forget about that. In fact, it makes me go, wait, so you had JD Martinez money is what you're telling me. You had it. You had it because you spent it, so you had it. But I mean, yeah, you're right. There's times where you might feel like maybe if a team did go out there too early, maybe, just like a lot of things in life, like you didn't get a last minute deal. You didn't get to shop kind of that bargain bin in a way where you have all of these very excellent players that were still left, closer and closer to opening day. And I mean, obviously we know that pitchers specifically can, be behind tremendously because they don't start in spring training and don't get ramped up and aren't ready to go out there and throw 95 pitches on a given night. So it's a big deal for them to get out there. I just wanted to ask you, obviously this impacts things greatly now, but what were your thoughts on the Diamondbacks offseason before this? I know you brought up a couple of the moves they made, and had you already kind of given them a fairly good offseason grade for the moves they made prior to this?
Yeah, I think either end of February or early March, we kind of did winners losers of the offseason, not to be too clicky. And I think the Diamondbacks were close to consensus winners. I mean, Erod, again, that's a pretty safe bet when you're adding a body to your rotation. Lourdes comes back. That's plug and play. The Jock Grichuk platoon, man. I know I know you've got some JD mania, but I wouldn't be surprised if those two outdo them on their respective side of the plates. Jock has always killed righties, and Randall has always killed lefties. So I love myself one platoon per team. And then I'm also an Eugenio Suarez guy. I think
Gino.
the way that we talk about innings for starting pitchers, Eugenio Suarez is going to be out there. He's going to hit home runs. And, from a third baseman that's, paid at his level, that's fine. Like, the Mariners fans haven't been too happy with me because, I was like, you still have to replace Eugenio. And they were hitting me with that he strikes out a lot. And it's like, well, yeah, that's because he's trying to hit home runs, and he does that, and he plays every day. So, Eugenio Suarez in the right lineup, and right now I see, Fangraphs has him hitting 6 or 7. That's an awesome, like, fan favorite ball player. If you need Eugenio to be your 2 or 3 hole, your team might have some gaps, but that's not an Eugenio problem.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Last thing for me, Torey Lovello said a couple weeks ago that he wishes the best players in the league would quit coming to the NL West. I'm guessing he's willing to make an exception for Jordan Montgomery.
So
I think he's probably okay with what happened with Jordan Montgomery. But what do you make of just the NL West as a whole this offseason? I mean, it feels like the NL West made more moves this offseason than basically the rest of baseball combined, with what the Dodgers did, with everything the Giants have done in the last month or so. Looking at this division on paper, as much as I like the Montgomery move for the D-backs, I don't think it necessarily gives them, makes them head and shoulders better than the Giants. I think they are better than the Giants, but it's not necessarily by an enormous margin given what the Giants did. What do you make of this division and kind of how it looks going into 2024?
It's kind of wild how it happened. I mean, we talked about the Boras 4 this whole offseason. And then, it feels like we've been waiting 3 years for the Giants' big offseason, and it didn't look like it was happening.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, it happened. Like, Jorge Soler is no joke. Matt Chapman, Snell, they went for it. Robbie Ray is supposed to come back in midseason. That guy has a sigh in the bag that, they had their big free agency. Jung-Hoo Lee was $100 million. And then, so right when I was coming to grips with the Giants, I was like, you know what? I definitely have the Giants over the Padres. They traded for Dylan Cease. Man, that rotation is going to be a problem. Michael King is a dude. They've got 4 dudes in their rotation. Their lineup still looks a little funky to me. But if some of those kids click, they're going to be so. And that's before you get to the Dodgers. So
right.
It's the NL West showed out this year, and it's kind of a blessing for expanded playoffs, but there's also a chance that 2 NL West teams are going to be pretty devastated.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And that's I don't know. I know baseball's working to probably like another 2-team expansion and a realignment. And if the divisions are like this, man, like, shots fired at the Central, but like it's the East and the West right now.
Yeah.
How many teams if they got placed in the Central would either be a favorite or you'd be like, well, they could definitely win it.
Yeah.
And I think it's more than it should be.
Justin in our chat says, need Jake to tell Trevor how to pronounce Pavin's name. It's Pavin Smith. Pavin.
Not Pavin.
Not
is that
Pavin.
How Trev says it? I don't know.
Just need to get that cleared. And I wore a shirt today of a lifeguard on it in honor of you, because we definitely have taken over. We know what the message was you were trying to send, and we are defending the pool here now this season. That's a big thing. We got a shirt that says defend the pool. We're ready to rock and roll, Jake. So we got you. We'll be out there. In fact, we're going to have a pool party on July 31st. So I don't know if you're free.
Okay.
But if you're free, maybe grab that private jet, because I know about $25 million, like I said earlier. Just flying out. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, I'll DM Monty, I guess.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
July 31st. Okay.
It's a midweek game. I know it's not easy to make, but we'll try to make something.
Yeah, that might be tight.
Yeah, but hey, we appreciate you stopping by, man. We love that you love our Snakes, and we're really looking forward to watching this team be special this year.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to see everyone on Twitter late night for me this year.
That's right. We will be there. We will be there after dark for you. So thank you again for joining us, man.
Appreciate it, boys.
All right, see you later.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, make sure to follow him on Twitter at Talkin Jake. He is the absolute best.